I would like to thank everyone for coming today. And I'd like to thank our partners from the Resilience Travel District Council and our host today for facilitating this workshop. I'm Daniela Kopacz. I'm Program Manager within ERNACT, and I'm coordinating the Interreg project Devise. Devise, or Digital Tech SMEs at the Service of Regional Smart Specialization Strategy, is an interregional initiative of 9 European regions, aiming to unlock and exploit the potential that digital tech SMEs have as an enabler for the competitiveness of other SMEs belonging to the sectors included in the regional innovation strategies. The project is funded by Interreg Europe, and it's at the moment in the phase where the partners have been approved additional activities for assessing the opportunities raised, both the negative and positive effects of the pandemic on digitalization of SMEs, and the identification of new practices in the regions for supporting digital transformation. In this context, Devise partners from 3 European regions, for the Midland and Western Ireland, Cantabria from Spain, and Northern Ireland, from UK, are sharing today digital transformation recovery and support schemes delivered across the regions in response to the challenges and opportunities faced by SMEs in the context of COVID-19. There are some practicalities here, so I would like to know that the session will be recorded, and if any of you don't wish to be seen or heard during the recording, just please let us know. You have the option to turn on and off your microphones and screens. Still, I would like to kindly ask you to put your microphones off during the 3 presentations that will be delivered. Also, please use the chat box for any questions that might arise during the 3 presentations. These questions will be answered within the 10 minutes Q&A sessions at the end of each presentation. The recording will be available after the session on the Darien Strabon Council YouTube channel. So, because the time is rather short, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Jorge Muyo from Cantabrian Regional Government. Jorge is the General Manager Innovation, Technology Development, Industrial Entrepreneurship within the Regional Government of Cantabria, Spain. And I would like to welcome him and to kindly ask him to share his slides. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Daniela. And hello from Cantabria to the rest of the assistants of the people that is joining us in this thematic workshop about how the regions can develop different strategies around digital areas, and especially about the impact that COVID-19 has had in different areas of our economy, industry, health, and well-being in our regions. What I will do is to share with you some of these reflections, some of these strategies that we have learned around these past months, the global activities that we had already launched, and the possibility to develop this kind of new strategies. So what I will do is to share my screen and to share a presentation with all of you. So I think that you can see it right now. I think that there's no problem about seeing the first presentation in this format. I can see Daniela saying yes, so I think that it's okay, the presentations. What I want to share is first of all, who I am, or where are we in this position about the digital strategies. We are part of the regional government Cantabria. Cantabria is located in the north of Spain. It's a small region in the north of Spain. are more or less, we have a population of 500,000 inhabitants, so we are a small region in comparison with other regions in Europe and of course in Spain. But in the last years, especially from 2017, 5 years ago, we have been very active in different European projects. You can see some of these projects with some of the colleagues that are following this thematic workshop. But in other areas, especially the last one that you can see, the pilot in industrial transition, we are one of the 10 regions at the European level that we are participating in a high impact action about how regions in digital transition must face different challenges about energy, digitalization, training and skills, and different areas about how we can develop these kind of strategies at global level. So I think that this new perspective of developing new programs and new activities around European projects is something that we are very proud of that, and we are really thankful to the rest of the partners, to the rest of the networks that are providing us different kinds of help in these projects. The next one, you can say, well, some of this brief introduction. We are very active in two specific areas in relation with digital transformation in our region. First of all, we have a plan, a connectivity plan. We are a small region in Cantabria. We have some difficulties in order to reach all the surface and all the municipalities and all the towns and regions of our areas of our region in relation with the connectivity. So we are launching a huge amount of money and investment in relation with connectivity. That is basic, or it's a pillar, one of the pillars in order to develop further digitalization programs. And second, we are trying to provide some kind of support, especially to the companies and to the industry. We started to launch a new project or a new strategy called Factory of the Future Cantabria, that it's basically focused on training and skills and digital industrialization, digital industry 4.0. This program has given some results in the last 4 years. We have only the data till 2020, but in 2021 we had another 26 projects. So we are right now above 100 projects or 120 projects almost that we have been supporting in different conditions to the industry. And these program or these projects are basically to the companies in order to develop further activities in industrial digitalization. So it's basically for the industry and for the digitalization of different areas, processes, and products of these companies. And we have shared in these projects, in these European projects, 4 best practices that we have at regional level. Probably you will see that other colleagues in this thematic workshop will show us more best practices and more programs and activities that they have developed, especially in the COVID-19 situation or in the COVID-19 area. But we have these 4 activities that I think that are very interesting in order to share with you. First of all, we have a catalog of technology enablers. We have, in collaboration with the University of Cantabria, with our local university, we have developed a catalog with the level of implementation of technologies of some of our companies in order to detect or to allocate best practices, and at the same time, what kind of companies can help you in order to reach that level of digitalization. So we have a catalog of technology enablers at regional level. Second, we have different plans of technology audits. We started with this project or with this best practices at regional level, but we are right now the support of the national government in different programs that we have with them. There is a huge global project at national level called connected industry that is basically focused on this kind of activities, technology audits. And we are running with some of our local companies this kind of technology audits. For example, last year we have developed almost 20 technology audits to different sectors and companies, and some of them not only based on the industry as we know, but also we have supported some projects and some companies from, for example, from specific areas of our economy that is agro-food sector, for example, that are launching new projects about digitalization. The third best practice is technology skills. In collaboration with the University of Cantabria, we have developed a study program basically focused on technology skills before reaching the companies, that new people, new bachelor and graduates that have finished different areas of the and different degrees from the University of Cantabria can have another level of technology skills in order to reach the companies and to try to find solutions for the digitalization areas of those companies. And the last best practices is one of the actions that we have developed in the Devise project. That is the targeting less innovation aware program that we are launching right now. I think that we will have before summer we will have all the call ready for the final launch and to receive the projects and the activities from our regional companies in order to try to reach this less innovation aware SMEs, to try to increase their level of digitalization and to upgrade their digital skills in global terms. And after this small presentation, I want to share with you some of the thoughts and some of the learnings that we have developed in the previous years in order to find the perfect digital strategy for a region. And I can tell you that we have not found yet the perfect digital strategy, but with our learning process, we have found some things that are right, some of them that are not so good, and we have tried to, or I am trying to show you some of these advices, some of these activities that we have developed, some examples of these activities, and especially how we are from the COVID-19 situation and from the future, how we are trying to accommodate or to customize the regional strategy based on the customer needs. In our case, companies, basically SMEs, and of course the public service. That because we have a duality, we have a double figure or double perspective in order to reach some of our clients that are in some cases public clients, not only private companies. First of all, global ideas or a global perspective of how to, what are the tools in order that we need in order to implement the digital strategy. First of all, the governance. We are, as I told you, we are the global leader or one of the main leaders at the regional level in order to develop this strategy. But of course, we need a bottom approach. So we have to lead that, to be the leaders of that strategy, but at the same time we have the feedback from our partners and from our companies in order to see that the levels or the programs that we are developing are the right ones for them. Second, of course, an effective operational governance. Third, to put the user in focus. For example, we have seen that some of the activities that we have developed before COVID-19 were more focused on the industry and had almost no impact in SMEs. And after the COVID-19 situation, we have seen, or the COVID-19 impact, we have seen that SMEs need some specific activities and some specific tools in order to develop a digital strategy by themselves. And of course, to try to communicate and to reach with your strategy to the different stakeholders that are developing this kind of projects. For example, we are right now developing the Digital Innovation Hub at the regional level. Of course, we have found the European call that closed a few weeks ago. We have launched a European program or a European project for the Digital Innovation Hub, but at the same time, we are developing our own Digital Innovation Hub at regional level with the different stakeholders. And with this work, we are trying to develop this strategy that I tell you. More messages or more tools that we have tried to develop with our digital strategy at the regional level. Of course, to try to put from the theory to the facts, to plans, to actions, the sooner the better. So if we have different activities in the strategy and those activities are not specifically focused on some actions and some programs, and of course they receive some kind of funds, the strategy will be only a paper. So it's important to interact and to process, to develop different actions with all the stakeholders, and especially with the SMEs, to see or to show them that we have the perfect program or the perfect objective, but at the same time that we have the perfect support for them in order to develop those actions. And from those points, I think that the last one, to build partnerships between the members or the stakeholders that are going to develop or to implement the strategy, is one of the key factors. In our case, for example, we have found some activities with the regional stakeholders, and especially with audit companies or special companies or companies that are specifically focused on technology audits, on digital enablers, research centers that can have a real impact to the clients, furthermore than the regional government, for example, can achieve. So I think that this is an important point in the strategy. And as you can see, we have limited resources, so it's necessary to put all the efforts and all the activities in relation with the resources that we have, trying to know if we have the possibility to develop best practices, or to see how other regions have developed this kind of best practices, to try to copy or to reach some kind of agreements with experts in order to manage those ideas, and specifically to have the resources in order to launch them. So what I want to show you in this slide is that we have limited resources, so it's necessary to be very acute and to be very specific in the activities, in the stakeholders that are going to receive those grants, those help, or those areas, or specifically in which kind of industries, in which kind of sectors we are going to launch this kind of best practices or strategies. Some slides in relation with the public sector. I think that specifically in our region, we have seen after the COVID-19 is that although we had some regional strategies at public level, we have seen that it's necessary to develop a specific regional strategy after COVID-19 for the public services. We have seen that we needed some areas, for example, health, education, local government, to have a specific digital strategy, to have different activities in order to teach and to develop training skills for all those workers within the public sector, and at the same time to show some of the tools that we can develop in order to reach the final clients, our relationship with other stakeholders from the science and from the technology areas and from the companies areas. And we have seen that this digital strategy is very important right now, because some of the levels or different levels that we are right now developing with our clients and with our stakeholders are basically in the digital perspective and in the digital world. So we need to develop this kind of strategies. And what we have done is to develop some of these strategies in real-time scenarios. That is the second idea that I put you here. So, for example, we have developed some real scenarios because of the impact of the COVID-19 in the health sector. We are right now developing some European projects with our colleagues from the health sector and from the health area of the regional government in order to develop more actions and more tools from the digital area for the support or supporting the contact with the citizens and with the users of the health sector, and other activities and other tools for the people managing the health sector and for the professionals of this sector. So it's very important to have one specific strategy for some areas that we have seen that are key aspects of the after COVID-19. And to try to be ready for future challenges that we will have in these areas. And the last pillar that we think that is necessary to have a digital strategy, and that we are running a digital strategy right now for our region, is the entrepreneurial aspects of all the digital strategy in relation with our industry and with our companies. We have tried to develop different activities with a specific with trying to answer the urgent or the most important challenges that had our companies. And we have seen that we have tried to reach all the different fires, or to reach the different aspects that the COVID-19 situation gave us. But right now we are working specifically in this digital strategy, as I told you, in the digital strategy with these different pillars and companies, and especially the startups and entrepreneurs and our industry is a key aspect of this. So we are developing different training skills to try to achieve the companies and specifically the startups and entrepreneurs, in order to give them the basic areas, the basic plan for them to try to leverage activities, to put them in another level of more specific activities for example, for Fab Labs, for all the relationships with the Digital Innovation Hub. So I think that we are moving forward in this new actions. But for example, at the beginning of our strategy in 2017, we have seen, or we saw, that startups and entrepreneurs were not so important according to the levels of, or to the impact that we wanted to give to our strategy. And we have seen after the COVID-19 that startups and entrepreneurs are very important in order to put them into the same strategy and to give them tools for the digitalization. And my last slide, because I have seen that I have almost 20 minutes speaking, and I want to open the floor to more questions or to your feedback, is to have the full service and the full strategy in relation with other programs. I think that the four ideas try to mix finance and regional plans in order to impulse and to launch new activities in these areas is something, it's vital. So it's very important. So try to use all the projects, all the networks, all the best practices that you have seen outside your region, to try to understand them, to study them, and if it's possible, to implement them. So I think that this is my last message, and I am open to you to if you want to share with some of your thoughts or some of your questions. So thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thanks a lot, Jorge. You are now invited to ask questions or to put them into the chat or Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. I would like to ask you, Jorge, which of the sectors or activities received more benefits from the implementation of a digital strategy in your region?
Well, I think that at the beginning of the strategy, the strategy was very focused on industry, because we thought that industry were the key players in order to develop further plans and further activities in relation with the digitalization. But after the COVID-19 process, we saw that a lot of sectors and a lot of companies, and specifically SMEs, were ready in order to develop further activities in relation with digitalization, and at the same time needed some kind of help and some kind of role within our strategy. So at the beginning, we started with only with the industrial area. We have seen that that industrial area is following the basic strategy, and at the same time they are developing further plans. So they are more independent right now in order to develop further activities in the industrial or the digitalization of their fields and of their key areas. And at the same time, we have seen in this previous months, so, and specifically with the COVID-19 impact, that the SMEs need this kind of support, and we are right now developing further actions for specifically for SMEs. The technology enablers, for example, are more focused on SMEs. Training and skills are part of our program is specifically focused on the needs of SMEs and entrepreneurs. So we have seen this evolution of the sectors, and specifically in our case, we have seen that agro-food sector was one sector that we thought that they were far away from the industrial digitalization, but agro-food sector is a sector that we have seen in the last 2 years that we have seen that is moving forward faster than we thought.
Thanks a lot, Jorge. So part of the good practices that you already presented that have started during the pandemic, do you think that they will continue also in the upcoming period, in the following years?
Yes, definitely. Yes, I think that although some of them were quick measures or urgent measures, very measures developed in order to find easily the final user because of the needs of the pandemic. But we have seen that some of them are valuable, and the most important thing that have had a very good acceptances. So that we receive the feedback from the companies that are right measures and that they want to continue with them. So yes, I think that some of the aspects that we have tried to test during the pandemic situation, we are right now solid perspectives of continuing with these best practices.
Thanks a lot, Jorge. If you don't have any further questions for Jorge, you may still use the chat if there are any questions that might arise until the end of the webinar. So I would like to introduce our next speaker, Patrick Devine. He's a Devise officer within the Northern and Western Regional Assembly. Patrick, if you can share your screen.
Yeah, sorry, 2 seconds. just seeing if I can share my screen in 2 seconds. Okay, can you see the PowerPoint? I'll just put it in full screen. You can see it, okay? Okay, if it doesn't work, you can stop or interrupt me. So yeah, my name is Patrick Devine. I work with the Northern and Western Regional Assembly in County Roscommon, and we're one of the partners in the Devise project. And so as part of the Devise project, we want to identify some good practices which emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic, which supported businesses with their digitalization and digital transformation process. And one of these supports that emerged during COVID-19 was the Digitalization Voucher from Enterprise Ireland. And unfortunately, Enterprise Ireland, they were meant to present this, but they had another event with the Enterprise Week in Donegal, which is on at the exact same time as the Derry City and Strabane one. But they've sent me on the slide, so I'll do my best to give the presentation. And if anyone isn't familiar with Enterprise Ireland, they're the main organisation in Ireland responsible for supporting the development and growth of SMEs in world markets. So they're very much focused on export businesses and helping businesses with that export. And a very similar organisation would exist in Northern Ireland, which would be InvestNI. I will try and play a video here, and if the sound doesn't work, maybe stop me or someone raise my hand, but hopefully it will. Just this video is done up by Enterprise Ireland, and it's called Digital Island, and it kind of demonstrates how digital technology is integrated into so many parts of businesses. So I'll just play this.
Digital is everywhere. It's in the transactions we make, the conversations we have.
So just, is the sound working there? Put your thumb up if it is, Danielle. Yeah, okay.
The lives we lead, the way we work. It's not the future, it's the here and now. Our island is home to one of Europe's leading digital hubs and a who's who of international tech companies. Our talent, our ingenuity, and our global connections are fueling a new breed of super innovative Irish companies, disrupting industries and shaping our world. We're #1 in Europe for AI adoption, and throughout Ireland, companies large and small are finding new ways to innovate, using digital solutions to adapt, compete, and grow. They're mastering smart manufacturing, driving efficiencies, transforming customer experience. They're using digital to make our world a better world for all by reducing our environmental impact and putting sustainability first. And Enterprise Ireland is leading the way, supporting Irish businesses and guiding them on their digital journeys, providing advice and funding to leverage new technology and develop vital skills, and connecting them to a national ecosystem with the resources and expertise they need. Enterprise Ireland is helping Irish businesses to achieve their digital potential. Because we live in a digital world, and this is the Digital Island.
Okay, so that was just a wee video on how important digitalization is for businesses and for Enterprise Ireland. So I think we all kind of know what digitalization means, but I wanted to share what Enterprise Ireland's definition of digitalization was, because they've done a lot of research into it. And they define effective digitalization as having maturity in 4 key areas. And the first is purpose. And this is about having a plan and strategy in place for digitalization within a business. The second is process, looking at how to use technology to optimize processes within your business. Thirdly, then, is people, and it's about having the right culture and skills in place among your staff to ensure that you adopt and embrace digital technologies. And then finally, fourth is technology, and it's about businesses understanding what technology investments are best suited to their business. And I think that's very important. Enterprise Ireland also stressed that it is the complementarity between all these 4 areas that really makes it for effective digitalization. EI looked into, or sorry, say EI, I mean Enterprise Ireland looked into a lot of research from OECD, European Investment Bank, and Deloitte as to, and they found it has a huge impact on the overall economy because digitalization tends to result in higher levels of productivity, jobs growth, and more productive firms. And also, businesses that adopt digital technology are more likely to be export businesses as well. And this is a key driver for Enterprise Ireland, because this is one of their main goals, is to get companies exporting. Enterprise Ireland found that companies that do not use digital technology across their business tend to have lower levels of productivity. They also noticed that there's a gap emerging between large companies and small companies. Larger companies, such as multinational companies, tend to have scale, resources, and the management capabilities to implement these digital solutions. And you can see research here from OECD, which focused on smaller companies, found that these businesses lack information and awareness to digital possibilities. They don't have the knowledge needed to identify the right technology options for their businesses. And smaller companies are more likely to not have the in-house skills and management capabilities. And they don't have the same finance options that larger companies would have. So this is one of the key reasons that Enterprise Ireland have introduced this digitalization voucher, is to try and reduce this gap between smaller companies and large multinationals. And a survey by Enterprise Ireland with their clients identified some of the common challenges business owner and managers face when it comes to digitalization. I won't go through all of them just to save time, but a lot of them focused on smaller companies sometimes just don't know where to start in terms of starting their digital transformation. There's so many aspects to their business where digital technology can be applied. They tend to lack the in-house skills, as I mentioned earlier. The staff might not have the same level of knowledge and skills as larger companies. And sometimes they don't have the same level of understanding of the government supports available to them. And one of the most common challenges I think small businesses face here, and it's in some of the comments that came back from businesses, is they're not able to measure the return on investment. So I think an example of this probably is if a large company has data on their performance and KPIs in a certain area of their business, perhaps around customers or the time it takes to produce a product. And then when they do implement the technology, they record this, the time and resources to go into it at, maybe 2 years down the line, and they're able to see how the productivity increased or how much staff time it saves. So that in that way, the larger companies are more likely to be able to measure the return on investment. And this is what Enterprise Ireland wants SMEs to understand, is how to measure this return on investment. I won't go into detail on this because I know again we're short on time, but just these initiatives to support digitalization align with Enterprise Ireland's strategic objectives, but they also align with a lot of other government policy, such as Future Jobs Ireland, and they also align to the targets within the EU Digital Decade. So the digitalization voucher itself is to help companies prepare a plan for the adoption of digital tools and techniques across their business. And it's a strategic consultancy grant, so it doesn't cover product or service development or implementation tools. So it's really about the advice and consultancy aspect. So if it doesn't provide any finance for purchasing our software or investment or anything, it's purely consultancy to develop a digital plan or strategy. As I said here, the voucher covers either technical or advisory services related to the operations of the business from approved service provider. So if you go on the Enterprise Ireland website, you'll see they have a list of approved service providers, and the company can select which advisor they want to go with. And this the grant is, or the voucher is up 100% funded up to €9,000 or a maximum of €900 per day. And it's expected that the service will be kind of provided in a relatively short space of time, usually around 6 weeks. And the digitalization voucher is open to all Enterprise Ireland clients who employ 10 staff or more, but it's also open to non-Enterprise Ireland clients, but that operate within the manufacturing or internationally traded services that employ 10 or more staff. And even though this was developed during COVID-19 pandemic, this voucher is going to continue into 2022 and the foreseeable future. So the digitalization voucher, when businesses are applying for it, they have 3 options, and in their application they need to select one or more of these activities within their business that they're going to look at. So the first one is internal process optimization. So reviewing all the current operational processes and identify improvement areas. And this can be one specific area or many functions such as sales, finance, marketing, production, logistics. And it's really about eliminating waste and introducing automation and technology or cloud-based systems where make things more efficient and reduce waste. The second is about enhancing customer digital experience. So reviewing all the touch points that customers have with the business, and then introducing lots of technologies to see how you can improve that service. And that can be anything from like improving the website to using AI or chatbots and stuff like that there. And the third one then is becoming a data-driven businesses. So getting companies to perhaps gather more data, or if they already have a lot of data, how can they use technology across different parts of their businesses to utilize this data and make better decisions. And I suppose examples would be like CRM systems and ERP systems. So I kind of mentioned this earlier, but these are the activities that are not eligible. So as I mentioned, really anything like project implementation costs or marketing campaigns are not eligible. The voucher is not for investing in software technology. It's purely for advice and consultancy services to develop a digital roadmap. Before businesses apply for the voucher, they need to fill out this digital ready scorecard on the website. And there's 2 reasons for this. The first is for the business owners and managers to start thinking about what areas of their business they need to focus on, but also the results of the report that's generated at the end will help the advisor and mentor develop the digital roadmap for the business. And the digital ready scorecard looks at 4 aspects of the business, which is developing a digital culture, workforce and skills, management and operations, product and service development and delivery, sales and marketing, and regulations and compliance. And so you can see here that kind of some of the results to date. There's been 247 completed scorecards, and actually one of the weakest areas for business, interestingly, is sales and marketing. And you can see that the percentage of companies that filled out the scorecard is 51% small and 24% micro. So most of the businesses that have completed to date are actually the smaller businesses. In terms of digital vouchers applications, there's been 116 altogether. 66 were approved, 21 are being processed, and 29 have been rejected. Okay, that's me. Just one thing to note that I didn't really mention is, as I mentioned, the voucher is really for the advice and consultancy to develop a digital roadmap, but this will then allow companies to go to Enterprise Ireland and apply for other grant supports to invest in different technologies then. So an example of this would be the Operational Excellence Offer grant that Enterprise Ireland offer. And that's me, if anyone has any questions.
Thanks a lot, Patrick. Could you share with us or tell us if there have been any initiatives supporting smaller SMEs? Because we've seen that the digitalization voucher is targeting 10 plus employees, SMEs. Are there any initiatives supporting smaller?
Not at the minute, but when I spoke to Enterprise Ireland, they said that they plan to develop a very similar voucher, almost the exact same, for micro enterprises, which is supported by the local enterprise office. And if anyone that's not familiar, there's a local enterprise office in every county in Ireland. So these are for supporting the smaller businesses, as you mentioned, of 10 employees or less. So I think they're planning to roll that out this year. And from my understanding, it'll almost be a carbon copy of that digitalization voucher, but it'll probably be for less amount of money. So perhaps like 4,500 instead of 9,000.
Okay, and most probably this scheme will be continued also after the pandemic, right? So
yes, yeah, it will. It was developed initially in response to COVID-19, but I think Enterprise Ireland see the value in it for business, so it'll continue beyond the pandemic. Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick. If there aren't any questions for Patrick,
there's a question there for Gorka, from Gorka in the chat.
Okay, Gorka is asking, what kind of companies are the approved service providers and how is the selection process? And how many service providers have been selected? Sorry about this, Gorka, I haven't seen your message.
Yeah, so what kind of companies are approved? So as I said, for the criteria, it has to be either a manufacturing company or a company that has some sort of service that they can export. So generally export companies that are exporting their product or service. When they say internationally traded service, they mean that a company might have some sort of online software product, but that they have sales in other parts of Europe or across the world. So that's considered an internationally traded service. And how is the selection process? And I think it's open to any business that, as I said, is either manufacturing or the internationally traded service, and they've 10 or more employees. So how they're approved or rejected, I'm not too sure. It probably needs to ensure that they fulfill the criteria mentioned there, in terms of they're looking at either the data in their business, that they're looking to optimize some of the processes, or they're looking at the sale, the customer experience. So I think if their plan isn't to focus on that aspect of it, perhaps they wouldn't get approved. And how many service providers have been selected to date? I just go check there. It says there was 116 applications approved so far, and 66 were approved, and 21 are being processed. So yeah, that's the figures in that. Hope that answers Gorka's question. You're on mute, sorry, Daniela.
Gorka, if you still...
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, no, perhaps my question was more directly to the companies that are providing the consultancy service to these 166 companies.
Oh.
Because you were explaining about manufacturing companies, you were saying that the companies that are approaching to this or applying for this kind of digital vouchers, right?
Yes.
But my question was more on the other side. So Enterprise Ireland, I guess that they are selecting digital tech companies that are providing this consultancy service. And my three questions were more focused on that. Which kind of companies are there? Big, local or not local? How they are selecting them, and if you have a catalog, because Jorge was also presenting that they have a catalog of the technology enablers. Have you proceeding also in that way? Just some comments about that.
Yes, there. I will actually send you a link. So if you go on to the Enterprise Ireland website on the section on digitalization vouchers, they actually have a spreadsheet of advisors that the companies can approve or can apply to work with. And if you look at the type of companies, the advisor the company is selecting should really be kind of an expert in a certain area, if that makes sense. So if you look at the advisors, they range from companies that specialize perhaps in digital marketing. Some others focus on robotics and different stuff. So it really kind of depends on what type of activity the company wants to improve.
You can have a wide range of companies, and some of them are going to focus on some kind of SMEs applying for the digital vouchers, and other service providers are going to focus on other companies. So not all the providers are going to do all the stuff, but they are going to be distributed, let's say, among the companies that are applying. That's what you say. Okay.
Yeah. And so if you actually go on that link I sent, there's actually a section where there's like a questionnaire for the advisors to fill out if they want to apply to become an advisor, but it gives you an example of some of the questions the advisor is going to be asked, and what kind of they have to be expertise in certain aspects of terms of digitalization, and what the knowledge that Enterprise Ireland is looking for.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Patrick. And last but not least, I would like to introduce Tony Monaghan from Devise in Strabane District Council. He's the regeneration manager, and he will share with us how regeneration encourages the safe return to town centers to drive footfall and support for SMEs. Tony.
Hello, good afternoon. Hopefully you can all hear me. And thank you very much for the opportunity to present today. I'm just going to bring the presentation up now and make a start. Okay, so just bear with me a couple of seconds so I can share the screen. I hope everybody can see the presentation.
Yes.
Okay. Well, hello everybody. My name is Tony Monaghan. I'm the Regeneration Manager with Derry City and Strabane District Council, and I've been listening to the presentations this afternoon, just in relation to how different organisations have adapted to the pandemic in different ways. And in this instance, I'm going to focus in on the urban regeneration context, particularly around streetscape improvements, and also how we've worked very closely as a regeneration team with our business team, and to ensure that obviously that the solutions were very much integrated and coordinated, so that they could obviously have maximum benefit and impact. So starting off, obviously we've seen in the March 2020, we had the start of the pandemic. It was a global pandemic, but for all of us throughout the world, it very much had national and local impacts. And we started to see the onset of government restrictions, public health restrictions, and the result of that for our city centres and town centres were empty streets, closed shops, less vehicular movements, and creating maybe further uncertainty for towns and city centres. During these photographs were taken in April in 2020, and what should have been a very busy Saturday afternoon at 2:30 to 3 p.m. And as you can see here in the city centre, our streets were empty. And this has been replicated obviously throughout the world, and clearly the impact that it was having. And as you can see, our city walls, for example, historic walled city, it was just completely empty. So really, what we were starting to see, when I say we collectively, throughout Europe and beyond, was obviously an emphasis by governments that we needed to promote town and city centres, and within a UK and Republic of Ireland context, as was the case elsewhere, towns and cities were starting to initiate what we call emergency interventions. So we were starting to see terminology like pedestrian priority, pop-up cycle routes, meanwhile public realm, cafe culture starting to emerge as, you know, as a thing that would maybe help, you know, in terms of outdoor, help the hospitality sector. And we were starting to see road closures. So effectively what we were seeing was a new terminology, a new conversation starting to emerge about maybe how our towns and city centres might react to the pandemic. Pedestrian priority was one thing that obviously we were starting to pick up on, and obviously, you know, the cars, you know, we needed to sort of think about how we rebalanced, you know, and we look here at some examples in Europe here in Madrid, for example, when the pandemic, you know, obviously cars were taken off certain streets. We see here in Manchester, for example, you know, where streets were closed down with using street furniture, all about trying to, you know, obviously repurpose spaces and to try and make those spaces work for citizens, but importantly for businesses as well. Cafe culture, again, another part of that new terminology and about how that might contribute. And we see photographs here taken from Oxford in the middle and the left-hand side, and here closer to home in Cork in the Republic of Ireland to the top right. But again, you know, giving us examples of how that might work elsewhere. Again, cycling was the other, and active travel, and we were starting to see, you know, examples throughout, you know, the UK and Republic of Ireland, where cyclists were now starting to have priority. Active travel was being promoted because of people fearful of traveling on public transport. And again, we initiated some of these projects alongside our Quayside in terms of promoting safer active travel. So for us, we were moving into May, June time 2020, and we needed to understand, well, what do we need to do? Who do we need to work with? How do we respond? And we established a task force with a single focus around, you know, trying to address some of these issues. We had our partners, City Centre Initiative, and a range of others that you can see there on the list. And what our partners at City Centre Initiative undertook was a street-by-street analysis to identify challenges and opportunities and how we might be able to work through these as part of trying to repurpose streetscapes. We engaged very actively with a range of stakeholders to secure agreement on the types of interventions. So the objectives for ourselves were creating temporary meanwhile interventions, and I emphasize temporary and meanwhile to promote pedestrian-friendly streets where we could, new public realm and civic spaces, to assist and support businesses, promote social distancing, and to promote business and consumer confidence through marketing, promotion, and animation. The challenges that we had were very clear with legislation in terms of how do we make the legislation work for us, given how, you know, the public sector is administered, the fact that we as a local authority, unlike many European and UK and ROI locations, we don't have specific powers relating to management of roads. So therefore we had to work very closely with our partners who have that responsibility, and also to try to interpret the legislation in a way that could help us deliver. Funding was the other issue. We had no funding at that point, and we were starting to work with our central government colleagues to find out if we could secure funding. All the while, there was change in COVID-19 guidance, and it was changing, you know, all the time. So it was very fluid. Timescales where, you know, there's a need, we need to react now, but as you can see, we had all these challenges, and then the public sector would be very used to in terms of, well, how do we try to short circuit and expedite our procurement processes, because obviously we need to ensure that we are following those, but how do we speed those up to make things happen? And buy-in from all of our partners, and particularly our citizens and our businesses, was also important as well. So the response came in the first way through the government, central government, putting forward a grant of £17 million initially for all of the 11 local authorities in Northern Ireland. And for us here in Derry City and Strabane District Council, we secured something around £1.7 million. And it was support for an infrastructure and business support activities. We understood, and we were very realistic to understand that whilst the £1.7 million was very welcome, it was not going to address all of our problems, and we needed to look at a targeted approach in Strabane Town Centre and also in Derry City Centre as well. As I said, you know, we had to look at how we distribute the funding, and effectively we devised a plan very quickly that had a number of very complementary elements. One was business support in terms of providing grants to our businesses, streetscape improvements, carrying out, you know, trying to repurpose spaces to try to get people to maybe think in different ways how to relate to those spaces, and how the businesses might use them. Marketing and animation all come together as one coordinated plan, and you can see some of the examples of the marketing and the grants that were available at that time to try to stimulate business activity and confidence within our city centre. From a regeneration perspective, then we were thinking, well, what do we need to do in terms of maybe trying to respond to that? We very quickly commissioned urban designers to come and work with us to maybe carry out a very quick analysis around what interventions might work and where. And this document here, obviously, as you can see, COVID recovery and revitalization, as we call our street life document, provided the basis for us to take forward some interventions. And obviously, we had also to be realistic around the fact that because of the budget, the fact that budget was being split into a number of areas, that, you know, and the time and the speed, that really what we were going to achieve realistically were what we would call meanwhile and temporary interventions. So in other words, short-term interventions that would have high impact. So I won't take you through this in detail, but our consultants started to look at areas in terms of where people move, how people move, because we just felt that was an important baseline for us to understand where we might undertake some interventions. So for example, within the heart of our walled city, Derry, also some of the public squares in the Derry city centre, and also along the riverside as well, were some of the areas of interest. And also not within this presentation, but we also had some interventions and proposals and analysis done similarly for our other key town in Strabane itself as well. So within the walled city, right in the heart of the historic walled city, our consultants were starting to identify maybe a project that, you know, that could maybe try to repurpose streets, maybe to create new traffic movements. And what you see here is maybe a consultant's, our urban designer's vision, which is a longer term vision in terms of maybe, you know, a series of physical interventions. But effectively what this done, it gave us the foundation for us to maybe bring forward some experimental projects that were based on this analysis. And again, really, you know, we have a street here in Derry city centre, Ferricky Street, which runs along here. And the whole essence was to bring this down to from two-way traffic, a very busy street, to one-way traffic, create some pedestrian prominence, take out some on-street parking here, and to create some resting space and public realm space temporary for people to sit and to use, and also to extend this area here with some parklets for cafes to come out onto the street. And that was the vision. And this gives you a further you know, close-up of what we were trying to achieve. So really, we needed to move very quickly to implementation stage. Again, budgets were limited, but again, we felt that we needed to bring all of our partners with us. So effectively, what we decided to do was to implement a two-phase project, one being the introduction of single-lane traffic on Ferricky Street, removal of on-street parking at the Diamond, and then to continue that with parklets as a phase two. The key considerations for us were budget and time. As I said, meanwhile, we had to work through legislation and guidance to try to make, because again, like many other locations throughout these islands and beyond, you know, there was no legislation prepared for COVID, let's say, or for the pandemic. So we had to interpret those very quickly and work very positively. Engagement and consultation was important in terms of working with our businesses, our citizens, and representative groups to try to test these proposals before we put them on the ground. And we had considerations such as changing in traffic flows, loss of on-street parking, and also how we might activate and use the spaces once we had created them. So this shows the implementation phase where we moved into this street. As you can see, the top left shows a two-way street, and us starting to populate the street with bollards and street furniture to try to deliver on our objective. The project was implemented back in June of last year. And again, it was around experimenting and to try to see, well, how can we maybe repurpose and how might this inform future regeneration agendas as well. The next phase of this project, which is due for to commence now on site either later this month or the beginning of April, is to create some parklets into Bishop Street. And again, working with those businesses who have expressed to us their desire to be able to trade outside and to also, I suppose, create a new different type of experience in our historic walled city. In September 2021, we worked with our events team to basically start to link some of the surrounding streets, and they close those streets down for a weekend just to try to experiment as to how people might use these through animation, events, activation. And you can see here how people started to, I suppose, come out onto the street and, and animation, music and things like that. We are in the process of delivering some further interventions in Derry City Centre and also in Strabane. We have some projects lined up now to create some temporary public realm space with it along the riverside, which is on the right-hand side of the photograph in terms of seating and tables and some maybe just new resurfacing. And here in one of our public squares in Waterloo Place to do exactly the same. And those projects are about to commence later this month. So really, for us and from our perspective, and maybe to conclude, really the lessons that we've learned so far has been that there has been an appetite for change. COVID has accelerated that appetite, and we have been working very closely across all facets of the programme, not just the physical, but also around the business grants and the other elements, to try to maximise the outcomes and benefits as much as we could. We recognise, as do others, the importance of public realm and spaces for our citizens and for businesses, and the need to make them more attractive, need to enhance them, and to also to make them work for businesses where we can. And again, trying to work through all of the legislative barriers that one might encounter when you're looking to deliver projects like this. Meanwhile and temporary, yes, our projects, were very much meanwhile temporary. We needed quick solutions to implement a number of these schemes, but importantly, what we have been looking at is, well, how might they inform the future regeneration agenda for our city and beyond? What is the legacy of these interventions as well? And these projects are very much a trial stage at this minute in time, and we'll continue to monitor those. I talk about legislation quite regularly throughout my presentation, and again, I think the lessons that we're learning are obviously, the need for a review of legislation across the board in terms of how we might, respond to these changing trends a lot more efficiently, effectively, and quicker going forward. What we saw throughout the duration of the delivery of our multifaceted programme was a can-do approach adopted by all partners. Everybody, we were all in this together. We needed to find a solution, and we had that very positive support by all of the partners and the collaboration across stakeholders. But what was very important throughout this was just our consultation, how we consulted with businesses, with our citizens in terms of online surveys, how we engaged and how we communicated, and we'll continue to do that as we continue with the delivery of this programme, working very closely with our colleagues and our business team who've connected very successfully with the business community throughout the district, and how we might further link with them going forward. So that's a very quick summary of my presentation. I'd like to thank you all for your time and for your attention. And again, following my colleague's presentation, I'm more than happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Tony. It was a very interesting presentation. Thanks for sharing it. So I think that what you call the experiment, this urban regeneration initiative that you took in the last 1.5 years, can become a way of living for your citizens and businesses. So do you think that this can be translated into future urban regeneration projects, bigger regeneration projects? Did you have this in mind when designing?
Well, it's a very good question, and thank you for that. I think firstly, we clearly what we needed to do was to put in place very quick interventions that could hopefully work. As I said, they were experimental, they were trial, but we were working on the basis of maybe previous urban regeneration analysis that we had done within the city centre about maybe how we might need to, you know, create maybe a greater balance between pedestrian movements and vehicles, given that it would be largely car dominated. So I think that working on the basis of maybe, you know, some of the previous exercises that we had undertaken before the pandemic, then, you know, I think it was maybe fair to say that whilst we were putting these in as temporary, meanwhile, and trial, it was also maybe to help inform a future conversation and future discussion as to how this might inform more quality, long-term public realm, streetscape regeneration improvements within our city, and indeed with wider, not just relative to Derry City, but also the number of other key towns and settlements that we have in our district. So really, you know, it has been a very positive exercise for us so far, and we're committed to monitoring these, the outcome of these, and deciding how this might help shape and inform future policy and regeneration programming within our towns and city centres.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot and good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we have just listened to some interesting presentations on how regions and cities adapted to the COVID-19. As mentioned at the beginning of the session, Devise regions are now finalizing their analysis on the effect of COVID on digitalization. There have been some very interesting conclusions that arose from this analysis and some relevant practices that have been initiated by local and regional authorities, which have a very high potential to be transferred also to other regions, but also to be translated into future policies. So all this will be available on the project website and on the social media. So my colleague Yanire will send in the chat here the link to the project website. Keep an eye on us whenever you have and contact us whenever you have some questions and you want to share with us your innovative practices. Thanks a lot for being here. Thanks a lot for your time. I would like to apologize again for the delay for beginning this session, and have a nice. Yanire already shared this. Thanks a lot, Yanire. Have a nice afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.